Eugene, so much going on in your life, but the big thing at the moment will be the aftermath of the Kai's fight.
Yeah.
The floor is yours.
And what can you say? Like, there's definitely a part of our sport that is susceptible to poor, incompetent judging. And it happens. It just happens a little bit too regularly. And although I don't have the answers to combat that problem, I'm sure there's people with who are a lot smarter than me who are involved in the sport that can maybe have a think tank and come up with better solutions than I can. Because at that level, when there's so much on the line for these guys, and I'm talking about, what I'm really talking about is every time you fight, there's potentially a life-changing opportunity, and there's no room for incompetency in the sport at that level. So it's an unfortunate thing that happens, but it's also, it's as much as it pains me to say, it is a part of the sport that you have to deal with.
Is there any recourse that you can take?
Not really. I believe there is, but there is like a pathway you can take to protest a decision, but it's pretty fruitless, pointless task. It's not worth the effort that you have to put into going through that process to come out with the relatively the same result. So there's not really anything you can do. I mean, all you can really do is voice your opinion, I guess, and just let people know that there's some incompetent judging went on, and voice it publicly, and hopefully people that can have more of an influence over the sport, that can take care of that sort of thing, listen, and it's at least it's on record. If it's on record now, and if it happens too much, you would hope that something gets done about it.
Did you get to talk to anyone from the UFC that would give you an indication of what it meant for Kai? Or will he have to fight again, or an extra fight, or?
Oh, no. I mean, I don't particularly need to talk to anybody out of the UFC about that. Like, Kai goes backward. Like, he loses his ranking, he goes backwards, he's further away from the title, he loses half the money that he would have earned. He potentially has to fight lower ranked guys and build himself up again. So it's pushed him out by a year or more to get back to where he needs to get to. I mean, that's the nature of the sport. Everything is hung on the win and the loss, and the sport loves a winner, and it unfortunately it doesn't look too good on someone who loses. So that's how it is, and that's just the environment that it is, because it's the top of the world. So it sets him back quite a lot. But he's in good spirits. Mentally, he's determined to get back, and the team is 100% behind him. So what do? We just get back on the train and then start doing it again. So yeah.
We just had a quick talk to Dan, and he seems to be fully on board with just being a fighter these days.
Yeah. I mean, Dan's always been on a fighter. Maybe the criticism with Dan is maybe he's taken on a bit too much now and then, and I know personally from being a fighter and fighting at a much lower level than these guys that it was very detrimental for me to take on too many other things in my life. So even at a much lower level than these guys are fighting, I tried to tunnel and funnel everything into one aspect of my life, and that fighting, and everything around it is second or third, or I had to let by the wayside. And so, you know, for someone fighting at that level, there becomes a certain point when all those other things you do starts to become diminishing returns. And maybe that's a lesson that Dan's learned and got better at understanding as the years have gone by, but yeah, good.
You're telling me Israel wasn't here this morning, but you're telling me you're going to be catching up with him over the weekend.
Yeah. So I have to fly to New York tomorrow because it's the premiere of his documentary film, I'm not sure what to call it, to be honest, but it's a film about his journey through life, but with a particular focus on what he's been going through in the last few years, from the time that he made the UFC till up until very recently. And that's something that I was a part of right from the start, in terms of the back end and behind the scenes work. I worked on that with one of Israel's managers, Ash Belcastro, who's the owner of the brand Engage. He actually came up with the very earliest idea to start capturing the real early footage. Because of course me and Israel we had enough on our plate, him just getting in the UFC. So it was kind of the furthest thing from our mind. So it was good to have him come in from an outsider's perspective and be like, we need to capture this because this could be useful in the future. So all that early footage of him, Israel initially in the UFC, and even a couple of fights before the UFC, that was all his kind of brainchild, Ash's kind of brainchild. He collected the content, and then later on, we teamed up with a production team, and then we started capturing that content for an actual purpose of making a film many years down the road. So that's finally come to fruition. And there's a film premiere happening. It's been premiered at the Tribeca Film Festival, which happens in Manhattan somewhere. And it'll be an experience. It'll be cool. I just fly in and fly out straight away. So,
got a bow tie?
I don't know what the dress code is. But yeah, hopefully. I think it's quite warm in New York at the moment, so we'll see.
Talk about a lot of the other fighters, namely a couple that we haven't heard of, Blood Diamond and Shane Young.
Yeah, I think for Blood Diamond and Shane Young, all roads for them kind of lead to UFC Sydney, which has been announced. So hopefully powers that be look upon us fondly and get them matched in Sydney. And they're at critical stages in their career and their UFC contract, so they basically, they have to win. Otherwise they'll be seeking employment somewhere else. But we're going to take that pressure and we're going to use it. We're going to use it and turn it around and turn it into something positive. Yeah.
Carlos, we had a bit of a yarn to him before, and he was hoping to get on that card as well. Any chance of that?
Yeah. I think we're in negotiations with Carlos, as we speak, so he should have something to announce very shortly. So it'll be good to get him on it nice and early and signed, sealed, and delivered, and he can start building up back towards that camp. So he should definitely, I would say, 99% sure he'll be on that card.
If they all get on, it'll be the biggest team you've ever taken.
Yeah, it'd be pretty cool if I can get 3 or 4 on again. We've been doing a lot of individual UFCs now, but yeah, maybe it's time to do one where there's a group of us again.
I always ask you this one, every time you come back from a UFC, anybody else being looked at?
I have a couple of people that will probably be on contenders. I actually don't know the rules around that, whether you can announce anything or not. I need to find that out before I start naming actual names. But yeah, the contender season, which is just starting up, which is basically a trial to see if you're good enough to get in the UFC, I should have a couple on, hopefully. This side of the world is full of talent, and my gym's full of talent, and my gym has some of the leading contenders in the weight divisions around this area, so that some of the top guys in their respective weight divisions in Australia and New Zealand. So they are the perfect candidates to make the next step to the UFC. And I have a number of guys who I think, given the opportunity and put in those divisions, will have some devastating consequences on those divisions.
Any idea when we can name names?
Not sure.
I saw Gina downstairs, Gina Fabian, and she said she's enjoying the boxing.
Yeah, she's got her goals have slightly, the goalposts have slightly moved for her, so ultimately her goal was to try and get an Olympic spot, and an Olympic spot and represent New Zealand in the Olympics, but there's a process that she has to go through. She's got to go through the nationals at New Zealand and then the trials, and she has to beat a number of good girls on her way to doing that. So that's where that's where she's kind of aligning herself now. So she's using all her experience and she's focusing in on just the boxing. And I think she'll do well. She's got obviously some good girls who have really good experience boxing, but she has some advantages where she's fought at the highest level, and in particular in other combat sports, but not boxing. So she'll be looking to bring that all together in nationals and then the trials.
Oh well, we better let you get away and get the dicky bow out. And
yeah, we'll see. I don't even know if I have to wear a suit, but I better find out.
Hey, thanks. Good to have a catch up after so long.
Thanks, Tony.
Cheers.